Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I had a request to record a video on minimising pores. Now, I know that can be a really tricky situation. A lot of people might suffer from open pores, generally around the sort of centre of the face, but sometimes people do get them all over the face. It just depends on your skin. Now, as a makeup artist, I'm not afraid of pores. I quite like them. In fact, I like people's skin to look real, but I do understand that some people do feel like their pores are excessively big and they want to either fill them in or minimise the look of them so that their makeup goes on a little bit more smoothly. And I'm going to talk you through some of the methods that I found as a makeup artist that can help to do that. As the temperature goes up towards summer, our skin naturally wants to breathe a little bit more because of the heat, so our pores might open up. I think it's really important to work on your skincare so that you can help sort of manage that a little bit. And one way to refine your pores is to use products with glycolic acid. So I mostly use the Pixi Glow Tonic, which has glycolic acid in, and I use that as a toner every single day. It's something that I think helps really make my skin look a little bit smoother. It helps make my pores just look, it doesn't close them up because you need just your pores to breathe, but it just helps to maybe refine them slightly and make them look a little bit less obvious. Another product is the Alpha H Liquid Gold. As you can see the packaging, it's well loved. And again, it's one of those products with glycolic that just helps to refine the pore. So yeah, you're not going to be able to close your pores, and I don't think you'd want to, but you might be able to minimise the appearance of them and just improve that slowly in terms of your skin quality over time. The better your skin is in terms of skincare, the better it is and the easier it is to make bolder moves in makeup. In terms of the tips and tricks I'm going to teach you for makeup, there are lots of different things that you can do. You might find that one of these works, or you might find that you need to add more in. Maybe you could do all of them, maybe you could do two of them. It just depends on your personal situation. I personally suffer from pores around this area of my face, definitely on my nose. I do have quite a lot of open pores around this area, but I'm not so worried about that in terms of day to day. I don't really feel like I need to cover that up. The most sort of traditional method that you'll find of filling up pores or blurring the appearance of pores is to use a pore filling primer like the Benefit POREfessional. I know a lot of people use this. There are other versions of pore filling primers, and I think you kind of have to find something that works for you. Some people are quite sensitive to silicone, so you might not want to use something like this. You also find that a lot of people with open pores do have oily skin, and you might be at more risk of clogging your pores if you put something really silicone based in them like this. I personally wouldn't wear something like this day to day for myself because my pores do get clogged up, and I just don't want to risk having breakouts from that. But I'll show you today. The blurring is really, really incredible. The second method is to use a translucent powder. Any sort of fine loose powder can be used for this, and it's just pressing it into the skin before you put on any of your makeup. It helps really more to mattify. I always think that if you have pores, what you really don't want is glow, because anything that's glowing or shiny will basically reflect light and it draws more attention to it. So if you can mattify your skin with a powder like this before you put your makeup on, then that will help to just diminish the look of them. The more powder that you do put into the pore, the more it fills up because you're literally filling up with a product, but you might find that quite uncomfortable and quite drying. I don't recommend this tip for people with dry skin. I do have dry skin, but I'm going to show you it anyway, just so that you can see the effect. I've come in nice and close so that you can really see the effect of my pores, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of this and dab it directly into the areas that I have the problematic points. So really just around this area of my nose is where I have the most of the pores. I have one sort of really large pore here, and that one won't really get filled in because it's more of a crater, to be honest, than it is anything else. But hopefully you can almost see straight away the smoothing effect that this product has. It basically sits inside the pore and creates a new, smoother texture. Some people can struggle to then put makeup over this because it gets too slippy, so my recommendation is to start so minimally and tap in as best you can. Second method is to get my translucent powder, dip my brush in just very gently, tap off the excess so it all just goes away, and then gently press into your skin. Basically, both of these methods are designed to help mattify the skin and to blur the pore before you put the makeup on. You need to be really careful in terms of your powder. Anyone who is dry, this doesn't really work for you. I personally am quite dry, but I'm showing you just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, if you've got oily skin, this helps to basically fill in the pore. You really want to sort of pounce it into the pore and blur the skin before you go in with your makeup, and it'll just help the makeup apply more smoothly later. So now that I've zoomed out, I can see personally that the side that I've used the POREfessional on does look more smooth and blurred, and that's because of the silicones that are in that product that's really wiped out the area. So that looks really good. If you have day-to-day problems with pores and you're sort of my skin tone, maybe up to a medium skin tone, you could actually just wear this alone and that would help make the pores look a little bit more slick. On this side, I know that I'm going to stay very, very matte because of the powder. The pores do still look a little bit more obvious, but the rest of the steps that you're going to do with your makeup will help to diminish it further. Moving on to foundation and concealer. As I mentioned before, if you have anything with glow in it, it might draw attention to your pores. So I prefer to target the porous areas with something that's more matte. You can keep the glow across the rest of the face so that you still get an overall dewy, glowy finish, but just down the central T-zone, I like to keep it matte. So I'll go in with something like the Velvet Radiant Space Base from Me Cosmetics and just pop that foundation in the center of the face. That way I know that I'm not getting any shine, it's not going to be attracting attention to the pores, and it will just make me look that little bit more smooth and a little bit more porcelain-esque. It's my preference to go in with brushes like these, really sort of dense, flat brushes to press the product into my skin, and again that helps to push any product into the pores itself to fill them up to create that smooth layer. So I've packed my brush out and I'm just going to be passing it directly in to the areas that I need it in the center of the face. And the more you work it into the skin, the more your pores are going to be filled up. For the rest of the face, I'd recommend buffing the foundation in so it really does work into the skin, and just so that you can get a lighter coverage. You don't really need as much on that outside perimeter of the face, so the more that you buff in these bits, the less obvious it is that you're going to be wearing a full coverage foundation or a lot of it on your face. So I just popped off camera to do some lips and blush, a little bit of mascara on the eyes just to tie the look together before we move on to the final step, which is powder. Powder can be a really tricky one because I feel like there's a lot of people with dry skin out there, dehydrated skin, and powder can make a really obvious texture on your face in real life. So it's really important that you find a finely milled powder. My favourite choice for any kind of blurring or smoothing pores is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless, Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder. I do use this sparingly, but I've noticed that whenever I do have anyone with pores, this airbrushes those away. So I'm just going to swirl a little bit in and just put it down the centre of the face, again, where those pores are, and it helps to just almost get rid of them completely. It is like it says, it's like a filter, and it smooths out the skin. For some people, they may need something a little bit heftier again. So personally in my day-to-day, because I don't wear a full face of like foundation, concealer, blah, 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 what I prefer to do is just put concealer on and then pound like a heavier duty powder into my face. So I would use transparent from Rimmel in the Stay Matte powder, and I just like really do this to myself every morning, and that's all I would do to kind of get into the pores, because I don't want to wear primer and I don't want to do all of those steps. But if you're wearing a full face of makeup, I'd much more highly recommend using a finer powder like this, because you don't want an added texture, you don't want an added layer of makeup. This is so fine it's barely noticeable on the skin, but it does provide that all over smoothing effect. Your last and final step, if you are looking to really remove any of the texture of that powder, is to use a setting spray. Now you're going to want to use something that's a little bit more matte. You don't want anything that's glowy. Again, if you're putting it in the centre of your face, no glow down the centre. That is the aim of the game. So Urban Decay All Nighter, go in, little shake. And once that's all dried down, it's going to remove the texture of the powder on the skin, so you won't have that noticeable texture. It sort of melts it into the skin, but you'll still have your matte finish, which is so important for making your pores look less obvious. So here's the finished look. Hopefully you can see that my pores are really diminished. I can see in real life that you can barely see them. I would say the side that works the best is the one with the silicone primer, because it does really fill into those pores. But the one where I've used powder before my foundation and concealer here, it does look really great too. And I know that this is going to have incredible longevity, because you've got a layer of powder before a long wearing foundation, then powder, and then your setting spray. So if you're worried about that, this is the way to go. I do think you can use any one of these tricks on their own, or you can combine them together for like an ultimate bulletproof makeup that's going to get rid of the pores completely. But I still think you maintain natural skin. Like, obviously I'm wearing makeup, but hopefully it's not as cakey and thick as you might expect it would have to be to cover up pores. If you do have any questions about any of the tips or tricks I've shown you, please do pop them in the comments or message me directly. Please follow me on Instagram and follow my YouTube channel here. I'd love to see you again next time. Bye guys.